Welcome, my name is Pavel and I'm a senior Java developer. This is my first screencast where I'd like to show you how Git, Gerrit and sonar play nicely together to allow automatic pretested commits. I'm going to show you a typical pretested commit scenario, that is to create a change in Git, commit it locally, then instead of pushing to the destination repository, which is going to be at the GitHub, I will commit the change to Gerrit. Gerrit will trigger a build on Jenkins. Jenkins will build the project, run sonar analysis and vote if the change is good or not, depending on the results of running JUnit tests. If the change was approved by Jenkins, it is going to be reviewed and published. Once the change is published, it is going to be merged to the repository hosted by Gerrit. Gerrit has its own Git implementation and is able to host projects just like GitHub or Gitorious. But my Gerrit instance is configured to be a middleman between developers, repository and GitHub. I configure replication so that every change published in Gerrit will be automatically replicated to GitHub. That way, in the official repository, I'm going to have only tested and working changes. Let's start with creating a project at the GitHub. I open the browser and I go to the github.com. I sign in, I put my username and the password. My account is empty, so I'm going to create a new repository. It's going to be fdd. Let's put some description. This is going to be a public repository. I will initialize that with a Java template and create. Okay, it's ready. I have a first commit with a readme and .getignore file. The name of the repository is the text I marked. I'm copying it because it's going to be used while creating a new Gerrit project. And I go to Gerrit and I log in. I put my username and a password. And here I am. I have no projects configured, so I just go to the administration tab. I'm going to create a new project. I put the project name, the copied. It's important that the project names are exactly as in GitHub. This is important for the replication. I put some description about the project. The default options here are just okay, so I am going to just save the changes. Okay, the project has been created, so that's all okay. Now I will just create a developers repository. I'm going to copy the URL and just clone the repository. I switch the directory to GitHub and I just clone the GitHub repository. Cloning and it's done. It just was empty repository, so it was pretty fast. The next thing I have to do is to configure remotes. I will start with checking what remotes I currently have. Okay, looks like I have just one remote, it's origin, so it's all okay. That's the default option. I will add a new remote, which is going to be Gerrit. So I add a new remote called Gerrit and I put the URL of the repository. The name of the repository is at the end. It's important to not to make a mistake over here. I will check if this is working with git fetch. Looks it's all okay. No changes were downloaded because nothing was committed or pushed to that repository. So that's all okay. Okay, and now I'm going to create a new project at the location where I cloned the repository. It's going to be a Maven project, just a simple project for the sake of this tutorial. I choose the location. I put some Maven details like group ID, artifact ID, and the name. Okay, the project is ready. Has a nice directory structure. So let's start with adding a class. Class name, I'll put some package name over here. Okay, the class is okay. Let's add a method to the class, and then let's just write a simple JUnit test. So this is a public method that just returns true. Okay, that's ready. Now I'm going to create a new JUnit test. So I will just change the source folder location to test. Okay, I'm not going to add JUnit as a direct reference. I'm going to solve that later. I'm going to put the Maven dependency right now to the JUnit, so that when the project is run on Jenkins, Jenkins downloads JUnit dependency, and the project actually may run JUnits. So I'm adding dependency. The group ID is going to be JUnit. Artifact ID is going to be JUnit. The current version is 4.10, and the scope is going to be just test. Okay, the FDD test class is not marked as with errors anymore, so let's just change the method name. Let's test if FDD is awesome. Let's create a new instance of the FDD class. And let's put some assertion here. Let's check if actually we expect the method to return true. Let's actually check if this is returning true. Let's run the JUnit tests. Okay, they're passing. This is good. I'll put the JUnit tab down here. Yeah. So this is good. Okay, the project has been configured. We have some class. We have a JUnit test. So let's just have a look at what's in the Git repository. Okay, quite some files, some directories. Let's check what is in Git. Okay, I'm going to add the files to the commit. Actually, I added too much. Target should not be in the commit, so I'll just remove that. Oh, I forgot the R. I think I should just use git reset on the target directory. It's going to remove the target directory from the index. Yeah, okay, that's good now. Let's just commit the change locally. So that's the first step of the pretested commit, to actually make the change and commit it locally. The next thing to do is to push the change to Gerrit, but I'm not going to do it right now. And now I'm going to configure Jenkins to run the job that builds and tests the project after every commit the developer makes. So let's start with that. I just go to Jenkins and I will create a new job. The job is going to be called FDD and it's going to be a Maven project. So the first thing to set is the project source management. It's going to be Git, and I'm going to use the repository that is hosted on Gerrit, not the official GitHub repository. As I mentioned before, Gerrit is going to be a middleman, and I want that job to test commits that come from developers after they push them, so I can review and verify every commit apart. I'm putting the URL of the repository. Gerrit is going to run the Jenkins project, or rather trigger it. In order to do that, Gerrit, or rather Jenkins, requires two parameters: the Gerrit refspats and the Gerrit branch. I'm going to just put them over here. It's the Gerrit refspats, and the other one is Gerrit branch. Okay, I forgot the Git. Let's have a look at some advanced options. I'm going to change the choosing strategy to be Gerrit trigger. Gerrit trigger is actually the plugin that can talk to Gerrit, or rather listen to Gerrit, and then run the jobs at the Jenkins. I'm going to enable sonar analysis, and I have to find a Gerrit even. It's over here. I'm going to put the project name, and I'm going to choose the branch. It's going to be the master. Okay, sonar is enabled, Gerrit even is configured, choosing strategy is here, and the Gerrit variables are defined. Oh, that's all okay. Let's just save the project. Okay, the Jenkins job is configured, so let's now switch to pushing the change over to Gerrit. So I just go through the console. Okay, I can see I have one commit that I just made. I have another commit that is the initial commit from after I created the repository at the GitHub. So I actually have two commits. So after pushing to Gerrit, you can see I have two new changes, change number 10 and change number 11, and they should have triggered the build on the Jenkins. As you can see, two builds were initialized. They are both red, but let's not have a look at this. Let's have a look at the Gerrit first. This is the first initial commit that comes from the GitHub. The second one is representing the changes I made just before. So I have a bunch of files over here. I have the fdd.java file with the class. Yes, that's what I just written. I have the fdd test. That's okay. I have the pom.xml file. It looks okay. So this was just a quick review. Let's have a look at what is happening in Jenkins. I was expecting the first commit to actually be to come red on Jenkins, but not the second one. Probably there is a problem with configuration of the Jenkins job. Let's have a closer look. Yeah, I think the URL of the Git repository on Gerrit is wrong. So let's just have a look, check it again. Oh yeah, I think the domain name could not be resolved. So let's just remove that. I think that should help Gerrit trigger the builds. I will save the job, and I'm going to re-trigger the change. Okay, it's starting to build. Oh, it looks better. Oh yeah, okay. So the repository was cloned by Jenkins. JUnit tests were run, and now I think the sonar is started analyzing the project. This may take a while. Actually, the whole analysis doesn't take so much time, but the whole initialization of the database takes quite some time. It's been done already. Now sonar is running JUnit tests and doing some other analysis. Okay, it's been analyzed and the build is successful. Let's go back to the job. Okay, it's blue. This is good. Let's go back to Gerrit now. Yes, okay, I have two changes. Okay, the change that was the first change is bad, is red again, but the second one is verified right now. This is the result of successfully running all JUnit tests. I'm going to quickly review the change and publish the results. Of course, I should also review the first change and override Jenkins results. So I'm going to delete Jenkins results and review the change. I'm going to set this as verified, and I'm going to mark it as code reviewed. Now, behind the scenes, Gerrit triggered replication. So both those commits should land at the GitHub. They are merged to the local Gerrit repository and should now be copied over to GitHub. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the commits tab. yeah, the initial commit is still there, and the other one has been added, even though I didn't push the GitHub. Gerrit did it for me. Okay, so let's have a look at the whole process once more with a closer detail. I'm going to remove some unnecessary files that should actually be in git ignore file, like the class path or the settings or the target. So we have a nice clean local repository. I'll just remove the .settings file and the class path, and I'm going to change the git ignore file. Okay, looks good now. So let's now edit the git ignore file and let's add the target. And let's mark the target as ignored. Okay, that should be it. Okay, target is not listed anymore by Gerrit. We add git ignore. Okay, this is good. So I just delete these settings in the class path. They are going to be created by Maven anyway. So I just commit those changes and push them to Gerrit. I should have done that on a separate task, but this is so simple I didn't do it. I just put the console and the browser side to side to actually show you how the push to Gerrit triggers the build on Jenkins. Okay, I pushed, it's going to be built. Okay, the build has started. It's going to take a while. Sonar has to analyze the project. Probably it's going to take some seconds. Let's just wait for that. Okay, almost there. Okay, success. Very well. Okay, let's go back. Okay, wonderful. Okay. The changes in Gerrit. It's not yet on the commit list in GitHub. Just 2 previous commits. I'm going to review the change right now. So I click the review button and I'm marking this as +2. Gerrit tells me that the change has been successfully merged to the Git repository. It's the Git repository at the Gerrit, it's not the Git repository at the GitHub. But behind the scenes, the replication takes place, and Gerrit silently pushes changes over to GitHub on my behalf. Here we go. Cleaning up in the project has been pushed to GitHub. Very well. Okay, there is no more changes to be reviewed. All is reviewed and verified. And that's all good. Now I'm going to pull the changes from origin, and as I just expected, everything is up to date. This is good. If I was doing a business change, I would switch to another branch. I would first actually pull from the origin to have the most up-to-date sources. Then I would switch to another branch. I would make the change. I would push that to Gerrit. I would review the code and wait for Jenkins to verify the JUnit tests. Then, if the changes were successful, or rather successfully reviewed, I would publish them, and then they would be replicated to the official repository. Let's have a look at the sonar. This is another important thing. After every build, after every commit, you can check the statistics of the code. I can see I have some technical debt. I have a good code coverage, of course. I have no violations. Sonar gives you a nice overview of the quality of your code, so you should use that. That's actually everything I'd like to show you. This is all basics, but Git, Gerrit and Sonar together with Jenkins gives you a very good automated pretested commit scenario. That way you can control the quality of the code in your project in a very automated way, in a very efficient way. You don't have to run JUnit tests on your own, or you can find the problems that come in between commits. So thank you for watching